It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5, and it's a Friends Friday. My longtime friend in here, Chris Wiseman. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Really
it's good to have you come in here. And now that you're retired, you're not used to getting up at this time of the morning, are you?
It's funny. You're programmed. I still get up early.
Do you still get up early? Yeah. Well, I was thinking back a little bit. We go back a few years because you're a South High graduate. From what year did you graduate?
1978.
78. I knew you're in between me and my brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated 76.
76. So you graduated with my brother Pat.
Yes. At South High School. My brother graduated 79. So yeah, you're kind of in the middle there. But 78, and when in 78, what were you thinking Chris Wiseman was going to do?
I wasn't sure what Chris Wiseman was going to do. I wanted to go to college. I went to college to be a police officer.
Oh, really?
So my degree's in criminology. So
really?
I really thought at some point I'd be a police officer.
No wonder you've always kept an eye on me. It's just inbred in you there with the schooling and all that stuff. Yep. I'll be darned, I did not know that.
Yep. I graduated from CSU Pueblo in 83.
Uh-huh.
So I actually do have a degree. It did take me 5 years to get it, but I did get it.
5 years, that was the hardest. 5 years was sixth grade was the hardest 5 years of my life,
Yeah, that the first year I think I spent too much time in the cantina down in the basement where you could drink in those days. So I think that added another year.
Now do you still go watch the games and stuff up there? Or?
I do. I actually right now sit on the CSU Foundation.
Oh, really?
And help raise money for students out there.
So you have to put up with Todd Kelly then,
I
too.
love Todd Kelly.
How can you not?
Sometimes I get monthly videos from Todd Kelly telling me what he's doing, so I never open them up.
I really don't care what you're doing, Todd.
I'm sure if you're not doing your job, we'll find out.
Oh, so he's checking in other words, is what he's doing.
He does a great job there.
Oh, no, he
University is lucky to have him.
Absolutely. Boy, he's had his heart in there for years and years. And years. Yeah.
Athletics, everything.
So you were going to be a cop?
I was. And what happened was two of my college professors, right after I graduate, went to what was then the old Columbus Day dinner in Pueblo.
Right.
And sat next to a guy who was looking for a staffer for a U.S. Senate race for a gentleman by the name of Carlos Lucero, who was a lawyer from the San Luis Valley and ended up being an appellate court judge appointed by Clinton, just retired last year, I believe. But they asked me if I would come on, and I came on, and my life went in a total different direction.
Yeah. So you were kind of in the right place at the right time.
I wasn't even there. They actually,
I
just got a call from him and said, we sat next to your professors, Dr. Keller and Dr. Hughes, and they suggest you would be a good one for this campaign.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was not.
You weren't even in the right place.
I wasn't in the right place. I think by then I had 2 kids. So.
Needed a job.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, speaking of kids, you come from a pretty big family, right?
I have 2 older brothers, two younger brothers, and a younger sister.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. We just lost our dad in
I know you did, yeah.
September. He lived to be 90, so
that's tough stuff to go through.
Yeah.
I know that. But
and he did really well, lived at home. He had a stroke in August and just at that age could not recover.
Right.
But, I miss him every day just like I miss my mom.
Sure.
So.
Sure. That's you never get over it. You get used to it, as they say.
You do. And then you have, I have 12 grandkids, so I can focus my time on them. And
12 grandkids.
Yep. And then nephews and nieces.
Why do you look so damn young still is what I want to know.
I don't know. I look in the mirror every day, and I think I'm getting closer and closer to my dad's look.
Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. Chris Wiseman, of course, general manager at the Colorado State Fair, is kind of where we connected a lot throughout the years. But so you went on to work in state government at first, right out of college, it sounds like, right?
No, actually, I worked on a campaign, and then I worked for a home medical equipment company for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I ran Bill Tebow's first State House seat,
okay.
The guy with all the kids.
Right, yeah.
And then I was hired by, because of that connection, I was hired by U.S. Senator Tim Wirth. And so I worked on Tim Wirth's staff for the 6 years he was in office.
Now, did you do part of the campaigning and things like that, or how did
I didn't do a whole lot of campaigning with Tim. There's a separation between the actual function of the Senate office and the campaign.
Uh-huh.
And so I did a lot of community work. I worked on the federal prison that was built in
Supermax,
Florence.
basically, yeah.
Supermax, and I think there were 6 facilities built there at that time. Gosh, I worked on what is now called the Picket Wire National Forest Area down around the Pinyon Canyon Maneuver Site. I worked on that. I worked on transfer of public lands. I worked on a lot of things.
And when you work on it, what did you,
Well, what you do is you basically take the information from local and you funnel it up to Denver, and if it requires legislation. I worked on with a gentleman here in Pueblo by the name of Tommy Thompson on gun-iding the Bessemer Ditch, which needs to be redone
to seal it up. Yeah.
And so, you gather the local information, you work with the locals, and then the information's transferred to Washington, D.C. to work on. And then, Tim knows where his meetings need to be at that time. He had to meet with Ernest Hollings, who was a senator, to get the funding for this huge facility that was going in Fremont County. And you keep in touch with the locals, and you work through a lot of issues. I worked with Dave Cardinal on bringing TWA to Pueblo when I was flying out of Pueblo, and took the first trip on the plane from here to Springs, which took about 15 minutes, I think.
You could almost drive there that fast.
Yeah, that's right. But I was the senator's ears in Southern Colorado.
It was a lot
of fun because I got to help a lot of people.
Absolutely.
I help people who didn't get their railroad retirement on time, or some people who ended up being by government programs. Somehow they determined that person was dead, but they weren't. And so you would go through a process of helping them reestablish their benefits. And so
when somebody calls the state senator's office and needs something or has a complaint or whatever, you would be one of the people that would act on that, make it happen then.
I would answer the phone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And figure out how to make that.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Fix it.
It was a lot of fun. I think I made 2 trips to Washington, D.C. at that time. And so it was a good experience. Really helped me with dealing with people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of that's good and some of that's bad.
Yeah, I mean, you get angry people who call you just when you announce your alignment for the fair. It's
why is he bringing that guy?
Yeah. So you learn to take the criticism. Some of it's constructive,
right,
and some of it you just have to brush up.
Yeah, you just let it roll.
Yeah, just go to the next thing.
Let it roll.
Yeah.
Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. Chris Wiseman, longtime friend here. And so you had really no aspirations of being in the political environment in the earlier days, right? Really?
Not really. I mean, I was always interested in politics. I always read a lot of books about political figures, and usually older ones.
George Washington, Abe
George
Lincoln,
Washington,
kind of,
Harry Truman
was
was kind of one of my heroes. But I don't read my biographies based on politics. I've read the biographies on Reagan, and leadership is tough,
right?
And some people know how to do it, and you can learn that from anyone. And so
I'm sure.
I made a point to make sure that I didn't narrow my view in any way, shape, or form.
That's awesome because that way you can see things hopefully equally.
That's right. That's right. Wow. I don't think there's anything as a conservative or a liberal idea in solving solutions. There's only a solution.
Yeah.
And so if you come with it with some, in a way that says, I'll only look at it this way, you may not solve the problem. So that's one of the things I try to do as county commissioner is look at each situation as if it were looking for a solution, not with some political philosophy.
Right.
That comes in on other issues.
Right. I did an event with Drew Dix here a few weeks ago, and that was kind of what he said. He says, Republicans or Democrats, none of them are bad people. They're all trying to solve the same problem, but they have different ways of getting there.
Right. And
I thought, well, that makes a little bit of sense,
And my way may not be right. So I have to take the time to listen to what someone else is telling me. And so that's very important.
But now you're retired. You don't have to listen to anybody.
I don't. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I have I don't turn on CNN. I turn on the Golf Channel. If my grandkids are there, I watch Paw Patrol.
Right. Paw Patrol, SpongeBob SquarePants.
That's right. That's right. Little people. Just, Just whatever they want.
Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday. Chris Wiseman in here, of course, State Fair, County Commissioner, a variety of other things. But some of the other stuff that you did in the earlier days before like I say, we kind of really hooked up during state fair time.
Fair time, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, after I left the Worth's office, I was hired to do Roy Romer's field work on his 1994 reelection campaign. And I actually had to move to Denver for that entire year and did, and would come home frequently because I had a wife and 4 kids at home.
Wow.
Once he was elected, he hired me on staff to do special projects for him, which was a lot of fun too. So once again, like dealing with the new state prison down in Trinidad, but probably the biggest project he gave me was bringing the state fair, which had been privatized, back in the state government. And so for almost an entire year as the governor's staff, I was assigned to the fairgrounds, working with interim managers, Bernie Busher, and then Larry Kallenberger, in order to facilitate what needed to happen with the fair.
So it was privately owned in there at one time?
It wasn't privately owned, but it was an enterprise outside of state government. And what happened is it got into debt, about $6 million in debt, and couldn't cover its costs anymore. That's when the fair board removed Jerry Robb, and they started looking for another manager. But the only way for the fair to continue was for the state to step in. Under Tabor, the only way for the state to provide it with funds to solve some of those problems is that it had to become a state agency again, like it was back prior to, I think, 1986, when it became a private enterprise outside of state government. And so I have an understanding of those things, and so the governor put me down here to work with those guys to help bring it back in and work on the legislation that actually created the new operating organization of the Colorado State Fair.
Totally different than it was, say, 25 years ago.
Right,
then.
very, very tied to the Department of Agriculture at that time. But that way it could receive controlled maintenance funds. I was happy while I was there. We were able to put $20 million into the infrastructure, which mostly had been neglected in a big way: electrical, sewer, water, things like that. So
it's kind of just patch it up and let it keep going there for a long time.
Right, and now they've actually put a lot of more money into it, and they continue to do that. And I they've got a master plan that Scott Stoller is working through right now. That he's actually I'm helping him. I sit on one of his committees that he wants me to. I was reluctant to do it at first, but I felt like the fair is near and dear to my heart.
Sure.
Anything I could do to help.
How long were you out there at the fair?
I was out at the fair for 18 years.
18 years, wow.
Yeah, and I loved it there. It was the best job I ever had.
I'll be darned.
The problem is I think sometimes as an individual, you got to know when it's time for you to go. And I felt that I had wore out my welcome with legislators and others. And
going back asking for more.
Yeah, I just thought they need a new person. And I was offered the Deputy Commissioner of Agriculture job in Denver, and I went up there and I did that for 3.5 years before I retired to come back to run for County Commissioner.
That probably wasn't near as fun as running the fair.
I'll tell you this. It was easier. I felt much more pressure as the state fair manager as I ever did in any other job I've ever been in.
Wow.
Because it just seems like everyone's watching what you're doing all the time.
Everybody takes that fair
you get the
personally.
Annual audits, you get the annual beatings. It's
why did you park that person over there? I don't like that there. I don't want that food truck there.
But I still loved it there.
Yeah.
I loved the challenge. I loved the people that I worked with. I miss them all the time. Margaret Thornburg and Danny and Debbie and Joe Dean, who was a real close friend of mine who died of COVID during COVID, and just a lot of people that I was able to work with. My son Andrew and others. So.
Fun times. We're going to talk about some more of those fun state fair times coming up here. It's a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5. My friend in today, Chris Wiseman. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My friend in today, Chris Wiseman, and we're talking about all kinds of different things, but we kind of got to the state fair, and as you said, you worked at the fair for 18 years.
18 years. 4 years as the assistant general manager.
And who it was? Cruz?
Ed Cruz was
yeah.
there, and what happened I was getting ready to leave the fair because all the transition had been done.
Uh-huh.
And my friend Bob Jackson decided to call the governor and
Jackson
said,
Chevrolet at one time, yeah. Uh-huh.
And he was the chairman of the State Fair Board at that time, and he said, first he talked to me and he said, would you be willing to stay? And I said yes. And so he made a phone call to the governor's office, and next thing you know, I was hired at the fair. There was a lack of people who understand the legislature, governmental affairs. They needed that in the beginning. And so I feel that for them.
They didn't need somebody to shovel the corrals or anything. They needed somebody to keep you legal, keep all the stuff.
In order to transition, there were times at the fair I mopped, I pulled chairs.
I remember seeing you out there doing some of that.
Yes, anything to get the job done. So Ed Cruz left there in 2004, and so in October of 2004, I became the general manager, and my first fair as general manager was 2005.
Wow. Who was your favorite artist that you dealt with out there or anything like that? Do you remember right off?
You know who I really liked was Chris Ledoux.
Really?
He would walk around and talk to people, but Willie Nelson would do that too. He'd go out and see
just
the
a regular
horses,
dude, then
walk around, just regular people. There were some are a little bit hard to deal with.
Well, sure.
A little more high maintenance. But he was he was just fun, and he would sell tickets like crazy.
Yeah,
It was a genuine sellout every time we booked him. And I remember the year he went in to get a liver transplant. We actually, Bob Romeo, who was booking our acts, he actually was able to get us Toby Keith, which I thought, this is a winner. People came and wanted their money back. Because
they
people who followed Chris Ledoux followed Chris Ledoux. And I just thought that was
Chris Ledoux was like a real cowboy or whatever.
That's
Toby
right.
Keith was
a real rodeo cowboy.
Yeah. I'll be darned. I wouldn't have thought that. Of course,
and he could tell you stories about being at the rodeo at the Colorado State Fair and, riding bulls and broncs. And he was just a genuine person. Later, after he had his liver transplant, we had him 2 more times before he passed away. And he couldn't do meet and greets anymore. It was just the doctor said it's not a good idea.
Being around that many people.
But I would still get a chance to go down and sit, and he would talk.
I'll be darned.
It was fun.
That's cool. You think about how some of these people were difficult. I remember going backstage to see Bob Dylan there, and you weren't allowed to look at him.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the deal was on that, but you couldn't look at him.
Yeah, he was tough. Kenny Chesney was tough.
Really?
On people. Clay Aiken, when he came, he was bad with folks. It was one of those things where, fans want to see him.
Right.
Sometimes they disappoint him. A great person who came to see us was Olivia Newton-John, who after the meet and greet wanted all the security people to come back into the tent area, and she went and shook all their hands.
Wow.
And just was gracious as can be. So there's, just beautiful people who don't really let the stardom go to their heads.
Right. That's awesome. I'm sure you saw tons of that stuff.
Yeah.
There you go. Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. Chris Wiseman, State Fair Manager, County Commissioner, the list goes on and on and on, but we're talking about...
It's like I can't keep a job.
Well, yeah, of course you are keeping them. That tells you how old you are if you're keeping jobs 18 years.
I'm going to be really good at being retired, though.
I think so. I can tell, just by looking at you that you're enjoying this retirement stuff. But, talking about the State Fair, we were talking about some of the stars and things you dealt with. But, that's all the glory stuff that goes on out there. There's a lot of stuff that probably wasn't so much glamorous, I'm thinking.
Well, I always focusing on the junior livestock sale. We actually, during that time frame, were able to put millions of dollars into young kids' hands. Right. Which I think is extremely important.
Absolutely.
Just looking at, you always feared the weather. I kept an eye on the weather all the time, and I was pretty lucky. I think there was only one major storm that ever came through during the fair. There were little rainstorms here and there, and you feared the ones that would come between 5 and 6 because people are making their mind up to come out to
whether
the fair.
They're going to come out or not. Yeah.
And that always affected your carnival take a little bit.
Sure.
But
I remember one year when it got black and the sky was green and it was bad. And it was about 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and what was funny about that particular one is they ended up doing a story on the Weather Channel about how bad it was here in Pueblo. And they came and interviewed me on that.
I remember
having tents blow over.
Yeah, I remember having a booth there. right by the lottery, and I had all kinds of stuff in there and everything, and it started raining, and I'm trying to hold on. I'm trying to cover the stuff up. When it got done and it passed and everything, the money in my wallet was soaked.
Oh, my
That's
gosh.
how much it rained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just no place to hide.
No, and
You
that's
just have
kind of,
to
I
go.
was trying to protect this stuff and do that. I'm like,
Oh,
what's the matter with you?
The
Yeah.
guy in the Ag Palace used to love it when it rained. The
Drive
guy
everybody in there.
drive
yeah.
in there, and he would sell tons of food. So he always hoped for a rainstorm.
Was it
While he's
Stony
hoping
or
for a
whatever?
Stony.
The Stony, yeah.
While he's hoping for a rainstorm, I'm hoping.
Yeah,
there's
hoping
not.
not just the opposite. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Other stuff about the fair that we may not know or we should know, or
You know, the non-fair events were an important part of the
Mm-hmm.
fair too, and I know you're very involved with the NSRA. and
Right, the
that
street
was
rods,
one of my
yeah.
favorite events. It was so easy to do.
they just kind of do their own thing.
They come in and, they bring the show with them.
Uh-huh.
They park their show in a line, and you saw some beautiful cars and just very nice people.
Mm-hmm.
It was always a lot of fun to, I don't know if you remember Pat Newell.
Oh, of course, I did one of these segments with Pat Newell.
Oh,
actually.
did you?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat was great to work with, and he was the one there for most of my time there.
Right.
Really loved working with him, but it was a great weekend for Pueblo. It was a lot of fun, and we did Little Britches Rodeo for almost 10 years.
Right. And it was
And,
kind of the same feel as the street rods.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and they liked the fairgrounds because it was, very self-contained. You
Uh-huh.
could camp there, you could eat there. It was a good facility for them. What happened is their leadership changed more and more from what was Western leadership to Southern leadership, and they really wanted to get the event closer to them. And now they're down in Oklahoma.
Oh,
But,
okay.
they left, I think, just before I did, about 3 years before I did, they left. But
Well,
that was a great event.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the street rod things. Since I travel with the street rods all across the country, we take, we take for granted this fair out here because this is quite the facility. A lot of these fairgrounds that we go to with the street rods aren't near the facility we have here. But when you grow up around something your whole life, you kind of just take it for granted. Well, a lot of the fairgrounds aren't nearly as nice as this, or nearly as self-contained, or nearly as clean or user-friendly and things like that. It's amazing.
It's a great facility. It's old. It needs a little work, but it's very functional. And
Absolutely.
I think that, I think the master plan that Scott has put together can really enhance that facility and bring in more events, into the future. But, we did all the high school basketball games
Right.
there, and we did the 1A, 2A basketball championships for quite a few years.
Uh-huh.
When they were redoing Masari Gym, for 2 years, we did both girls and boys basketball.
CSU Pueblo, yeah.
So we and then there was the annual bull ride by Tommy J.
I was just going to bring that
Yeah.
up. Is that man? That
Tommy
was
G production.
That was. I remember I was telling somebody a little bit ago when he came in and was telling me about that. I thought, it's a rodeo, Tommy. Who's going to come to a rodeo?
Yeah.
It's not a rodeo. It's not a rodeo. And he was all excited about this thing, and I'm thinking, this isn't going to work. Well, it did.
It worked for 11 years.
Yeah, worked great.
He,
Of course, when he came with bands in the backyard, I thought, you're crazy, man.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work. And it worked.
Well, he loved the event.
Yes.
Yeah, and he and his family became good friends of mine over the years, and I miss him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I still go out and see his mom and dad from
Yeah,
time
I
to
do
time.
too.
Love those
Yeah.
people like family.
Yeah,
So,
I do too.
yeah.
They were working my car show
Yeah.
last weekend, and it was fun to catch up with them a little bit. But
Tommy Sr. works his butt off.
yeah, he
The
does.
whole family.
The whole family does.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tommy G, we could write a whole book about him.
I got some stories.
Oh, I'm sure.
But,
Yeah,
I still miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a Friends Friday here on KPHT 95.5. Pueblo's greatest hits. Chris Wiseman in here today. Here, State Fair General Manager, County Commissioner, all kinds of things. So after the fair days, you said you spent 18 years there. You went to the agriculture department?
I was Deputy Commissioner of Ag for 3.5 years.
And that kind of oversaw the fair a little bit and some other things,
the
right?
fair was one of my divisions. I oversaw 8 divisions at the Department of Ag. They do a lot of things there that people don't know about. The brand board. There's
where you
a fruits
brand
and
cattle.
veg division.
Yeah, okay.
There's meat facilities inspection. Anytime you go to the supermarket, those readers there, they make sure those are accurate. They do all the oversight of pet care facilities.
So kind of protecting consumers.
They're an oversight, and they're one of the division is the department is is driven mostly by what people pay for the services.
Mm.
So I think if you look at the Department of Ag, at least when I was there, their percentage of the state annual budget was less than 1%.
Wow.
Appropriation, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything else was funded by fees and stuff that people pay.
Uh-huh. So you were kind of overseeing all of that stuff.
It was a good job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with Don Brown, the Commissioner of Ag. He and I are on two different political spectrums, but we got along so well.
Which is how it should be.
Right.
Yeah?
And we worked together on things, and I'd listen to him, and he'd listen to me. And,
awesome.
He always called me Christopher whenever I was in trouble.
So. Kind of like mom or something.
And we still keep in touch today. A lot of good friends that I got to. John Stolp, who was another Commissioner of Ag. I've actually had good relationships with them. But I got tired of living in Denver. It really wasn't me. I lived in a little apartment, 360 square feet in downtown Denver. Commuted out to Broomfield every day. I just felt like
nothing sounds fun about that.
Yeah, I needed to get home. My house was still here, and I used to come home almost every weekend. And decided, somebody said, have you thought about running for county commissioner? And it was a job that always interested me, so I decided to run. So
I'll be darned.
And it was, I enjoyed working with Terry Hart, and I enjoyed working with Epi, and Garrison and I became pretty good friends during that time. We didn't always agree, but we didn't embarrass each other ever.
Right, which is how it should be.
Yeah, we had our discussions in a way that each one respected the other one. I think too much time, there's too much yelling and screaming at each other and just not enough dialogue. But we
got some stuff done.
We got some stuff done. You know, we were able to do Medal of Honor Boulevard, the new jail, which was really things he was driving. We've been able to, we helped strengthen the homeless programs here in Pueblo County. You know, we worked to revamp the Runyon Field.
What a facility that is, too, you know?
We worked with the people out in Pueblo West to finally get a tax through out there that will actually fix the roads over time. And so, you know, we were able to accomplish a lot of things together as a team. No one ever, you know, there are a lot of people who stand up and pound their chest, but I never accomplished anything in my life without somebody else's help. It's just that simple. So. And
again, this was not your first deal. You wanted to be a cop.
I wanted to be a cop, yeah. Sometimes I wonder how good I would be. I probably wouldn't write any tickets.
Soft heart a little bit is what you're saying.
That's right. Okay, get out of here.
Yeah. Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday on KPHT 95.5, Pueblo's greatest hits. It's Pueblo's greatest hits, KPHT 95.5 on a Friends Friday. My longtime friend, Chris Wiseman. I say longtime friend, but I got old and you stayed young. I don't know how the heck that all worked out, man.
You should hear me get out of bed in the morning.
Oh, man, snap, crackle, pop. Yeah. That makes me feel a little better.
Without putting some, what's it called, Voltron on it.
And that helps?
It helps. It actually helps. Yeah.
Really. But,
for a couple hours.
Well, you know, you look great, and you've lost a bunch of weight and things like that. How do you attribute this?
Well, my wife.
Not following me and eating with me, I know that. So your wife?
My wife, Terry, actually is a health coach and has been coaching me.
Really?
So I've lost.
So you're like the poster boy then here.
Yeah. You know, it's a good time to get into better shape.
Absolutely.
Although sometimes I wish I had done it a long time ago. But, you know, when you got 12 grandkids and most of them are under 13, you run a lot. And
I'm sure that helps.
And we take them camping, so the better shape you're in, the better off you are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so eating right and all that kind of stuff.
Eating right, lots of greens, lots of fish. However, I will tell you, occasionally I sneak a Milky Way or...
Well, and you did say you still go out to Gidone's.
I go out to Gidone's, and you can eat healthy out there, but I don't. You know, I get fried chicken and spaghetti. So she's lost a lot of weight too. We've really embraced the program that she's teaching.
That's awesome. Well, when you came to the door, I didn't recognize you at first.
Yeah.
I didn't because I was downstairs.
You know, I shaved this off. I had semi-beard for a long time.
Oh, is that what that was?
When it got so gray?
Gray, yeah.
I said, no, I got rid of it.
See, that's where I have to draw the line. Which is worse, a gray beard or a double chin? So I kind of rotate them,
Well, they got fixes for the double chin.
Well, yeah, I guess they got fixes for the gray hair too. Now that you mention it,
That's true.
Yeah, well, good stuff here. What's in your future here? Just being grandpa and just doing that, or you got some other things?
We just got back from 12 days in Hawaii, which was great.
Oh, you dog! Yeah,
we'll be heading the camper out the middle of March and not be back till the middle of April.
Good for you.
Going to Texas and Arizona and other places. The summertime is filled up with camping with the grandkids. Sometimes all of them, sometimes two of them.
I was going to say, if you're taking 13 of them at once. Whew.
Yeah, we take all the kids and all the grandkids at least once a year, and this time I think it's at the end of July, where we all go up someplace, and it is the most fun you can have as a person, I think.
That's awesome.
So, but I do appreciate our friendship that we've had for a long time.
And, through the fair and through the
enjoyed this opportunity to reminisce and think about a lot of good things that have happened.
Yeah, well, awesome. Yeah. I appreciate you taking the time to come in because I know you're trying to figure out how to get out of town and do something. If you
get bored or your listeners get bored, you could call me again. So
might happen. Be careful what you say. But Chris Wiseman in here on a Friends Friday. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to come in.
Thanks for having me. I sure appreciate it.
It's KPHT 95.5.